So, up next, we gotta learn about sine, cosine, ln, and e, and how they work with derivatives. We're gonna look at sine and cosine first. So, if your function is f of x equals sine x, or your function is f of x equals cosine x, sine, when you derive it, f prime of x equals cos x. It just flips, right? Cosine, when you derive it, becomes negative sine x. This is just something you gotta like memorize. The way I think about it is like, in my brain, how it works is sine is like the default one, cosine is like the different one, right? Because you learned sine first, or because I learned sine first. So sine, when you derive it, it just becomes normal cos, right? Because it's just default. All you're doing is flipping it, sine to cos. Cosine, when you derive it, cosine is like different. It's like cosine. It's like scheming something, you know. So since cosine is edgy and different, it becomes negative sine, like it flips. So cosine changes, sine doesn't. And then the same thing is true if it's like backwards. If you have negative sine, it becomes negative cos, and if you have negative cos, it becomes sine. Yeah. So it's kind of like a cycle, because if you derive sine, you get cos. Then you derive cos, you get negative sine. You derive negative sine, you get negative cos, and that goes back to sine, right? So it's like a circle of where it goes if you derive it. If you have like coefficients, they like stay there. For example, if you have f of x equals 2 sine x, and you derive this, you get f prime of x equals 2 cos x. That's kind of it. So let's look at, I'm gonna give you all a practice problem. Y equals sine x plus 4 cos x minus, I don't know, 3 sine x. Derive it. What is dy over dx? What? Solve it. Pause it. Solve it. Okay, we're good. You get cos x minus 4 sine x, because it flips. Because it's plus cos, it becomes a minus sine. And then minus 3 cos x. Well, that's pretty much it for sine and cosine. They just flip whatever. It's pretty brief. Now we're gonna look at ln and e. So if you have ln x, you have e to the x, and you're deriving them, what do? These are 2 more things you have to memorize, or I guess 1. Ln x, if you derive it, you just get 1 over x. That's it. Like anytime you see ln x and you're deriving it, it's 1 over x. E to the x, anytime you derive it, you get e to the x. It's crazy. Yeah, e to the x doesn't change. You just keep the same. If you have 4 e to the x, you derive it, you get 4 e to the x. If you have 6 e to the x, you derive it, you get 6 e to the x. Doesn't matter. E to the x is unchanged, and this is just something you gotta know. Anytime you see e to the x and you're deriving it, you don't do anything to it. Ln x, anytime you derive it, you have 1 over x. If you have something before the ln x, like if you have 3 ln x, you get 3 over x, right? Because the 3, what you get is 1 over x times this 3 from the beginning, right? So the 3 goes on top, and you end up with 3 over x. So ln x, you put the coefficient over whatever the x is. E to the x, you don't change. There's one more rule, and it's when you have a number to the power of x, you keep it the same when you derive it, and then you multiply it by ln of that number. So a to the x becomes a to the x ln a. So if, for example, you have 6 to the x, right, you'll have 6 to the x ln 6. Or if you have 7 to the x, you'll have 7 to the x ln 7. And that's what it is. Yeah, so this is another rule you have to know. You have to know this is how it works. This is actually why when you have e to the x and you derive it, you get e to the x times ln e, right? Ln e, I don't know if you remember, just equals 1. So this is why it doesn't change. This is not important to know at all. It's just why it works. Yeah, so now we're doing practice problem. So the first practice problem we're going to look at, we have ln x plus cosine x minus 4e to the x. What is the derivative of this function? Well, ln x, oh, actually pause it first, pause it. Do it. Alright, cool. Ln x, you get 1 over x plus cosine x. The derivative of that is negative sine x minus 4e to the x. You don't change it because e to the x, 4e to the x, right? So rewrite it, you have 1 over x minus sine x minus 4e to the x. So that's it. You just break it step by step. The terms are separate from each other, so you don't have to do anything. We're gonna look at one more, and then we'll move on to the fancy rules. So next example, we got 3x squared plus 4x minus cosine x plus ln x. We're like combining all the old things we learned. So start from the beginning. 3x squared, you derive that, you get 6x, plus 4x, derive that, you get 4, minus cosine x, right? So minus negative sine x, right? Because it flips. Plus ln x is 1 over x. So left with 6x plus 4 plus sine x plus 1 over x. And this is your f prime of this one. Yeah, that's it. So we moving on.